here lies the match that never vanished. It just had to run and find a sweet, warm place to hide. I know you hear me, but are you listening tonight? I know you hear me, but are you listening tonight?
Welcome to Suzanne's studio, and I'm Suzanne. My guest tonight is a very prominent, awe-inspiring, talented young man by the name of Michael Capozzola. Michael is a comedian by night and a cartoonist by day. I mean, is there anything else? Michael.
Thanks for having me, Suzanne.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And you really are funny. It's too bad that we couldn't have taped this before. But let's start with, how did this all begin for you, Michael?
How did you get the words awe-inspiring in there? Have I inspired awe since I arrived?
Yeah, of course.
The chocolate chip cookies were the most awe-inspiring thing. I want to thank you for the chocolate chip cookies in the green room. Those were good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So, when did you know that you were funny? I know it started when you were a kid. Like, how old?
It's just something that I always seem to gravitate towards, is making fun of stuff, being silly. It just all my focus and willpower was on doing something silly, and the kind of stuff that would. I remember as a kid, and I think every comedian has this, where company might come over, like my parents would have their friends over, and they're like, okay, you can come out of your room now, Michael. He's going to do some impressions for you. Just laugh, like that kind of thing. Or maybe they were genuinely funny. I don't know, but they were encouraging that way. But once dinner was done, it wasn't like a nuisance. It was more like an after-dinner treat. Like, Michael's going to come out and do some comedy.
But let me ask you, you must have really enjoyed it.
Loved it.
Yeah, see? So you were born a ham. But before we start talking about the comedy, I think we should let the audience know that you are a big mocker. Do you know what a mocker is?
I do.
You do? It's a Jewish word meaning a big shot.
Well, I know what it means. But,
you know what it means. Well, maybe the audience doesn't.
And a chazer is different. That's a pig. That's someone who eats all the food at the table.
Yeah,
are you going to finish that? Chomp, chomp, chomp.
Yeah, that's it. That's a chazer.
Okay.
But you work for the San Francisco Chronicle once a week as a cartoonist. Cheap City. Tell us all about that.
They carry my strip, Cheap City. It's a guide to getting by on a budget, and the title of the strip is Cheap City, Saving You Money One Bad Idea at a Time. And it's kind of a cheat sheet on how to get by in San Francisco creatively, shortcuts to save money. When I started the strip, the economy was like so-so. But now it's gone from being a goofy little thing to almost borderline practical, maybe. Maybe not exactly practical. It's a lot of bad advice, but it's become suddenly all too poignant with the economy now.
So you draw your cartoons yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you write them yourself? And you write your own material
Sure.
for comedy, too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to show some of that in just a little while. But how do you come up with the ideas for the cartoon?
It's a lot of hustling. In San Francisco, to be a performer or in the arts, you really have to get by creatively. And these ideas that I always, in the back of my head, I always had, but I never really had a place to use them. Now I have the strip. It's like a voice for these things that I wouldn't do. Like, if I was really, like, I moved here when I was 26 and I was scrambling and like, maybe I can paint my apartment with whiteout that I stole from Kinko's. Things like that. Very.
Yeah.
Most of the strip largely is stuff that'll get you jailed or make you ill, but you will save a few dollars.
Is it true? I actually haven't seen the clip, so I'm so looking forward.
Well, we
to
can take a look at some of the cartoons and I'll walk you through them.
Okay, let's take a look.
This is actually one of my favorites. This one is about how to save some money when you go to a stadium, you go to a big event, a concert, or a football game. It says in the caption, avoid the steep price of stadium drinks and build a BYOB baby. And in the very first panel, it's kind of a schematic. You'll need some booze, a baby doll, You cut the baby in half, you put a little hole in the head of the baby doll, and you put some ice in the torso area, seal it up again, and you enjoy your tasty alcoholic beverage. And you can slip, if you've been to a concert, you're paying like $13 for a beer, and it's watered down. It's horrible stuff. So there they are, sipping from the BYOB baby, 2 straws in the baby doll's head, and they're saying, "Oh, baby."
Very, very cute.
Oh, this is this one loosely based around comedian Brian Mallow, a buddy of mine, who has no connection at all to religion. But this one says, "Start your own faith for fun and profit." And there's always room for one more. So this is a guy asking this woman on the street, "How do you feel about these shocking images?" And the woman is saying, "Stressed." And no doubt about it, you need Brianetics. And there's a little sign that says "free stress test." This actually, Suzanne, when I was living in New York City for a little bit, and Scientology would have these tables, and they would be, it's a free stress test, and whatever the people would say, like, "You know what, you have stress, you need Dianetics." And the funny thing to me was they would show these people images. I could never see the images, but they would be like, "What does this make you think?" And I'd see the people go like this, I would just see their reaction, like that, and then they showed them something else. But it was Grand Central Station post 9/11. All they had to do was look around. There's like heavily armed guards with, gas masks, and there's like children, "Mommy, mommy." They're lost, and there's like a homeless guy urinating on the information kiosk. Like, they didn't really need these shocking cards. They could just go, "How does that make you feel?" And like, "You need Dianetics." Like that. So that inspired Brianetics, based on my buddy. I just thought you could start your own religion for fun and profit. Suzannetics.
I like that a lot. Now, here's a very, very provocative question. Okay?
Lay
Are
it
you
on me.
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Being a cartoonist, Michael, and an actor, comedian, how do those two relate?
Humor being the umbrella for me, I feel very fortunate that I have the drawing to either fall back on as a vocation for earning money, or if I'm killing time waiting for a train or something like that. Like, I can't do stand-up during the day. I can't do it. I'm just like an annoying guy on the bus. Or, "Hey, everybody, I've got a joke." Nobody wants that. So, but I have the ability to go through my notebook. Oh, I'm going to draw that one. So I feel very lucky that I have the outlet. Like a guitarist, somebody who's a musician, they can play to a crowd, or they can sit around, play to their goldfish or whatever. And it's still very rewarding. It's meditative.
Yeah. But you said, which I didn't know, Michael, that when you were a kid, you started drawing. So it just didn't happen as an
That was
adult.
my first love. Like, when I go back to New York, if I'm running errands, my mom lives in New Rochelle, and if I'm running errands in town, some people who knew me as a kid, they go, "Oh, are you still drawing?" But if I run into people who knew me in college, they go, "How's the stand-up? Are you still performing?" They knew me as one or the other. But cartooning was the love of my life. Humor was really always the love, but it was just which vehicle would work for me.
So you're saying that they are definitely connected, that they're related.
If I come up with a funny idea that's really visual, I can draw it in the cartoon or do it on stage. It's like, if the idea pops in my head, and like, well, what do I do with this? Is it something that lends itself to a picture, or is it something that I could try to bring to life through the spoken word?
This is a dumb question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Which is more rewarding? Standing up in front of an audience, doing your comedy, or knowing that your strip is very successful?
I don't know that it's very successful. It's in one paper so far. My goal was 30 by this time.
Oh,
so
really?
I just have another 29 to go, and then I'll be successful. There's an immediate feedback with stand-up that you can't beat. It's just, here's the joke, blah, 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 and then there's either, some applause or maybe a lot of laughter or whatever. For me to draw something, is this funny? Or, "Hey, did you see my cartoon?" "Mm-hmm." "Did you show it to anybody?" "Mm-hmm." "Did they laugh?" "Mm-hmm." "Do you think they showed it to anybody?" "Mm-hmm." "Do you think they laughed?" It's like this endless chain. You don't get the feedback.
That you do instantly.
Instant feedback with stand-up.
And you write your own material. I don't see how you do that.
I look like I would outsource it to another country.
Well, no. That, first of all. No, but really.
Between us, I have 35 writers in India, and they work for pennies. Pennies.
Oh,
and,
that's not nice.
No, it's not India. I'm just
you-
kidding. It's
China,
yeah,
right?
It's China. It is.
Michael. No, but how do these ideas come to you? I always ask my guests that. My brother says, he is so funny, he's one of the funniest people I've ever known, but he's too afraid to come on the show because, you know, he thinks so much of himself. But anyway, he said, stop asking your guests what the blank creative process is. I always ask that. Well, I haven't asked it for a while, but I'm going to ask you. The creative process, meaning how, when you start something, how does it work? How does it affect your body? I mean, the whole
I
picture.
like if I'm giggling when I'm writing it, like sputtering like a savant, you know, like a 5-year-old, you know, like that.
Yeah.
And that to me is like you know you're onto something when you're giggling. For me, when I'm writing it down, like, oh, this is ripe, you know. I love that. That's how I know it'll work or should work, as opposed to I'll write it down, see what happens. If I'm like just in, you know, in the moment, I hope I get this, you know, captured.
So what you're saying is that you feel it throughout. That's my...
At least from the chest up.
Yeah.
It's not like my leg is shaking like a dog.
I'm not going there. Anyway, I also want to mention that you're having a performance in September in Mill Valley. So let's tell the audience about that.
Is this the part where I say, hey, audience?
Yeah.
I have a one-man show. It's a performance. It's half stand-up and half... It's half stand-up and half slideshow. I show some of the cartoons from the strip that I do for the Chronicle. I usually start off with about 15 or 20 minutes just of straight stand-up. It's called Cheap City the Show, and it's a look at how to get by on a budget, just like the cartoon. You know, quick fixes for getting by, largely in the Bay Area, but it would apply anywhere. I'm going to be doing it at the 142 Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley. It's a great theater, a beautiful, beautiful space. They have stand-up on Tuesday nights, hosted by Mark Pitta, and I pitched the idea to the theater, and they very kindly agreed to have it on Thursday, the 25th of September, 8 o'clock.
The 25th, that's 2 days after my birthday.
And
so
just a few days before Rosh Hashanah, so you got to get your sleep. You'll be up late, up late at the show.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I want to say, and I was looking at your webpage, Michael, and you've been to thousands of comedy clubs. No, but at least, no, I mean, I was scrolling down, you know, and I thought, I'm not going to scroll anymore.
You know, that's a complete list. Some of them are now like, you know, pool halls and karaoke huts or places where they strip stolen cars. I mean, they're not all in existence anymore.
Oh, I
you know,
see.
It's not like I'm playing there, you know, on a rotating basis. Some of these are long gone.
So you have even many more comedy clubs.
I've outlived a lot of those.
Tell us about one that you particularly, it stands out in your mind that was really, really great for you.
Oh man, I love Cobb's and Punchline here in the Bay Area. They're phenomenal clubs. They're very well run. They're picky about who they book. They're A rooms, as we say. You know, it's an A room. They're getting great shows. It's not like it's a pizza parlor that happens to have comedy, or a not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a great place to see a live show. Too many people, I think, are content to see it on TV.
On the HBO, but HBO is so filthy dirty.
Well, it depends what you're watching, you know. I mean, it's...
No, it's all pretty bad.
Well, describe the last filthy, dirty show that you saw that just made you crazy and you're like, I can't watch this. What would that have been? I mean, is it like Taxi Cab Confessions or what, you know?
No, it was one of the HBO comedians.
One of the comedy shows?
Yeah, it was terrible. But you are also on YouTube. Tell about that.
Well, I'll tell you that anybody who has access to the internet is on YouTube. I mean, it can be like kids watching the grass grow. They're on YouTube.
No,
you know?
they're not. Come on, that's a real.
And you know what they say with the lottery to be on YouTube? You know with the lottery, all you need is $1 and a dream. I think basically, like, do you have access to a camera? You can be on YouTube. There's just clips up there. If you Google or if you go there and put in Capozzola, you'll see some gigs, some commercials I did for a raceway. I did some, I don't know, just stuff. I don't know. Did you have to pay somebody to put stuff on YouTube? Because
I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to say that. You don't know what I've done.
You don't know the unspeakable things I've had to do to get on YouTube.
And I just found out from our floor director, this darling Jim guy. Yeah. I can't say bad words or anything.
Oh, YouTube has standards, yeah.
No, here.
Oh.
Yeah, here.
So there's stuff on YouTube, and yeah, if you can spell Capozzola correctly, you can find it on YouTube. It's Capozzola.
Yeah, so there are not two P's in it.
No, it's a common mistake when people misspell Capozzola.
Yeah, then they can't get on it. How about seeing one of your video clips?
If you want to show, I've seen it. I know what it looks like, but you can show it to the crowd.
I haven't seen it, so we'll get that set up.
Okay. It's a clip from the Purple Onion, the historic Purple Onion in North Beach in San Francisco. Yeah. Great place. They're not strictly speaking a comedy club, but they have a rich history of performance. It was a show put together. It was a political comedy night put together by a guy out of New York, Jeff Chrysler, and he invited me to perform. Jeff and I had toured the U.S. with a few other guys on a political comedy tour in 2004, trying to like unseat the Bush administration through comedy. And anyway, there was a political comedy night, and I had taken a local approach. So I think we take a look at the clip.
We know that change begins at the local level. I work for a Bay Area nonprofit that seeks to transform the lives of heroin addicts by teaching them to sew. It's called Needles for Needles. A lot of people don't know this, but needlepoint patchwork and quilting are as mind-numbing as a 3-day heroin binge. Being an artist, I try to help the arts too. A friend of mine works for the San Francisco Ballet. She called me up and said, "Michael, we have a problem right now. Attendance is down at the ballet. And studies have found that this is largely because ballet is pretty boring." She said, "Michael, why don't you try and write some slogans?" I wrote something. I'm so proud of this. It's going to be on Muni and on billboards all over town in about a week. You can look for it. It says, "The San Francisco Ballet. At least it's not opera."
Oh, you are very funny.
I'm not laughing at myself. I'm laughing at the fact that they took out the expletives. So like it's, you know, studies have found that the ballet is pretty boring, but when you take out the expletive that starts with F and go into boring but leave off part of the B, it sounds like the ballet is pretty foreign. You know, it's like but you get the idea. Yeah. Ballet is pretty foreign.
Who took the expletive?
You guys took it out, and rightfully so, because there's standards on this show.
Of course. Our show is so lily white. It really is.
I shot that clip with a little camera called a flip camera, and it's very portable. It shoots well in low light, and the sound. Look, I hadn't seen it blown up that big. It looks really good.
So, I still cannot get over that you are an artist, and that you're you're a cartoonist, plus the fact that you're a comedian, and you do all this yourself. Because
I cannot get over the fact that you cannot get over that fact.
Well,
I mean, I've got ADD. I like to keep busy, and it's a comedy. It's all,
You have ADD? I do too.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Michael. No, but isn't it true that most comedians have writers?
No, not
really.
That is a fallacy. I've actually been asked. I think there are two misunderstandings about stand-up, and I would love to clear this up. Can I address the camera as I clear this up? Which one?
Yes.
One or two? Right here?
Yeah.
We don't have writers. We can't afford them, and we wouldn't use them. And the real thrill is writing our own material. And then, more importantly, I want to disrupt this fallacy right here. Hecklers are not an important part of the show. I think there are people who are like, "Watch this, honey. I'm going to help out." And there's no helping out. It's a monologue. I don't know. It might be an English thing where it's like, it'd be quite corking to go into it with the comic. But no, it's a monologue. But I think there are people who come and think they're going to make the show better by antagonizing the comic. And then it's going to get ugly. You're not going to win when the guy's got the microphone and 20 years of training. And then they're going to leave in disgust, and it just upsets the whole room. That is a fallacy I hope I've cleared up. So when you come to your local comedy club, please just sit still and enjoy the show.
And remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had a bad experience that you would like to tell us about? I mean, I don't like to be negative, but everything is... I don't want this to be too googie-goo. You know, I mean, you're cute and you're talented, so tell us something that we might not like.
Well, you know... I started in 1990, and then I was living in D.C. in the early 90s, and I was hosting a show. This is a very interesting thing about hecklers, or rather, this is an interesting... this to me was a funny thing at the time. I was the MC, so I was the first person to go on stage, and the headliner was a guy named Roger Mersick, who was a local D.C. Guy, and as I'm about to go in, this guy cuts through the crowd, sits in the front row, and he's got this ridiculous hat on, it's a Dr. Seuss hat. And it's something about it kind of didn't sit well with me. And I said to Roger, "What do you think that's all about?" And being very wise, kind of like the Ben Kenobi here, he said, "What do you think it's about?" I'm like, "Well, he's got to be a fool to sit in the front row at a comedy show wearing a Dr. Seuss hat that's 4 feet tall and think that he's not going to get picked on. I'm like, and if he knows that, what can we conclude? I'm like, oh, he's ready for it. He's probably got a bunch of comebacks, witty things he's, researched, like 101 great comebacks, and I just said, and I got on stage. I'm like, buddy, look, you want to fight, so let's get this over with now. You're here with a Dr. Seuss hat. Do you have like witty comebacks written down on index cards? And he just erupted in laughter, took out the index cards, put them on the table, took the hat off, and sat still. And it just was so funny to me that it was that obvious that he was like, watch this, honey. I'm going to take down the comic tonight. So he just knew that wearing this idiotic hat would get the spotlight on him. And it was so cool that this guy, instead of like, watch out for that, that guy, he kind of made me like, I guess it's a trap,
But you handled it so well. That's the other thing. I mean, how do you... Oh.
It was proactive.
It was proactive.
That same club, and I thought this was the funniest thing in the world. That same club, there was a guy who had come and sat down right as the show, a different night, had come down and sat in the front row. He looked just like Morgan Freeman, who is one of my very favorite actors. And on the way to the show, I'd been just trying to do this Morgan Freeman impression to myself in the Metro. It's like it's like the BART. And I'd be doing, like, Andy, Andy, nobody's ever escaped from, or like, there are 7 deadly sins. And I was just working on this Morgan Freeman impression, and this guy, the night of the show, this guy came and sat down in the front row right before the show started, and I said, sir, you look so much like Morgan Freeman, and I said, would you mind standing up? And people were like, oh my God, he looks like Morgan Freeman. And I just happened to have been working on the Morgan Freeman impression, but the chance that I got to do it that night was so funny to me that just that night I've been so excited, like, oh, I'm getting a little better at my Morgan Freeman.
And there he was.
And there was this guy that looked like Morgan Freeman. It has nothing to do with heckling, but it's just that club would always, just weird things would happen.
Yeah.
And it was very early on, so it was a fun, formative experience that there was.
What happens when the audience really does not react to you the way you would like them to?
I just assume I'm in the wrong place. Maybe I wandered into a funeral or something. No,
But no.
That's never happened. It hasn't happened in a long time, but sometimes there's a circumstance. I did a show in Bayside, Queens. It was a benefit for a guy who'd been mugged and beaten, and somebody in the family of the victim thought it'd be a good idea to have a benefit, and somebody somewhere was like, I know the guys that own Jimmy's Comedy Alley in Bayside. And nobody was in a laughing mood. This poor guy had been battered, and then, let's have a comedy benefit. So they're just kind of sitting there like that, like,
yeah.
Not, chirp, chirp, chirp.
Yeah.
Wasn't a good night for comedy.
So how do you deal with that, though?
I was kind of, I just left. I was like, hey, I'm thinking I got to go now. And that was it. And I was kind of new to it at the time, so I probably could have handled it better if I was more seasoned, but I just didn't know what to do, and I left.
I had Mickey Joseph on within the last year, and he was doing imitations and stuff because he was in the Rat Pack playing Joey Bishop. And I said to him, I'm going to ask you the same question, because I thought it was so psychologically astute, sensitive, that my belief is that a lot of comedians suffer depression. And he said, what? But he said some of them do. You don't seem depressed.
I've had some, I've had blue periods.
Have you?
Yeah. I mean, it's, didn't you want this to be a funny show?
No, you tell me. No, I love pathos. Pathos?
To be totally honest, it was something I went through not terribly long ago, and I feel like I've turned a corner. But it's one thing I like about stand-up is I forget all. Like, you really have to be present for it. I think the audience knows if you're phoning it in or like. And another thing that's been on my mind, if you're just like a robot. And it was 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, of me not thinking about anything bad. I'm just right there doing, and laughter is a great medicine. I feel it's like a little injection of life that wears off towards the end of the night or the day or the week or whatever. But I don't know why mania and the arts go together like Joni and Chachi and peanut butter and jelly. I mean, I used to say it's like Misery and Company. Like it does. There isn't. It
is. There's something.
Some people some very talented people that I know, they pay a very strong price for what they do. And it happens that they work in a very funny field.
Well, but the thing is, when you're a comedian, you're out there. You're so I'm trying to think of the word, senior moment. You know, you're so vulnerable. You really are.
But a lot of it's not that true. I mean, the best comics, I think, are truthful, but my stuff is a lot of made. I mean, there's almost nothing in there that's nonfiction.
Really?
In the one-man show, I'm getting more into, and I've really enjoyed it, I'm getting more into nonfiction and telling stories that happened in childhood and things like that, but there's, clearly, like, you know, the clip we just showed, I don't work for a Bay Area nonprofit that seeks to transform the lives of heroin addicts by teaching them to sew.
But still. And the other thing is, you have to memorize your material.
I'm not too good at that.
But your material, though.
It's my material, so nobody's going to say, well, oh, that's in the wrong order. I know the material.
You know the material.
If it's a longer show, I'll kind of make adjustments. You know, maybe for my one-man show, I because it's an hour of stuff, I'll put certain notes on the floor in big letters. Like, you know, I'll remember, like, talk about coffee here and talk about this here. You know, I know the through line that way, but my memory is pretty shaky.
That's interesting. We only have a couple of minutes. Let's talk one more time about your upcoming show in September.
It's at the Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley, and it's an 8 p.m. show, runs about an hour and 15 minutes. 142throckmorton.com is the, right there? I can't tell because I look to the side.
I know, it's hard.
142 Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley. It's my one-man show, like I said. It's part stand-up, part slideshow. I show... you know, I show stuff from childhood. I had done a book report about Custer's Last Stand, and I had drawn a cartoon about the ineptitude of the cavalrymen. You know, they're massively outnumbered, and my teacher had written in red letters, "Why the need for this humor? Why?" You know, that kind of thing. And I show like this old book report cover from high school where I thought it was a funny cartoon, but he had taken points off the serious book report about the Battle of Little Bighorn because I'd put the art on there.
Michael, we have run out of time, and I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have been a fabulous guest, and of course you'll be on again.
Thank you.
You promise?
I promise. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. And I want to thank our crew. Do we have the crew of the world?
Crew.
We absolutely have the crew of the world. And it's all volunteer. KMVT is the best station in the United States.
And free coffee mugs for guests. I love it.
They're not free. I'm sorry. And of course, I want to thank our audience for watching. They are the most important. And you know what? Want to hear this? This is from the heart. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Here lies the magic that never vanished. It just had to run and find a sweet, warm place to hide. I know you hear me, but are you listening?